Arizona should get the victory against BYU at home against McHale, but there is a wild card that Arizona fans need to know about.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke, Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you today by FanDuel. Right now at FanDuel, you can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Check it out. Okay, now, we got a lot to get to this show. We are going to talk Arizona basketball, a lot of Arizona basketball, and obviously we are going to start with where the Wildcats are. The first thing that we need to talk about with the Wildcats is right now you're 12-3 in conference, and 12-3 in conference is huge. You're in the best conference going into this season in all of college basketball. It is a monster of a conference. Everybody obviously knows that. And if I were to tell you before the year that you would be 12-3, I think that everybody would take that. And I don't even think that it's not even close. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about what Arizona needs to do to move to 13-3. Now, against BYU, BYU is a solid team. They're an NCAA tournament caliber team, and I thought Arizona had one of its best games of the entire season. And one of its best games of the entire season against BYU in that second half. And there were a variety of reasons why. We're going to talk about that. One thing that BYU does have going for it, though, is Egor Demin. We're going to talk about him. But this is a game, quite frankly, that Arizona should win. Arizona should be able to take care of business against BYU and get that victory for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, Wildcats are just better than the Cougars. You saw that, especially in the second half. BYU has absolutely nobody that can guard Caleb Love. And when I say nobody, I mean absolutely nobody. He is he's a problem for them. And we've been talking about it before. The way Caleb Love can get to the hoop, the way that Caleb Love can, he's just got to keep doing that. And he showed, and that BYU, they've got nobody that can cover him. They got absolutely nobody who can cover him, and that is that's a big thing for the Wildcats. So you got to take advantage of that. And like I said, and if Arizona were to win this game at 13-3, I think you can then start looking and saying, can Arizona get to 16-4 in the Big 12? If you can get to 16-4 in the Big 12, you start looking at things a little bit differently at that point, because 16-4, you wonder, all right, can you get a top 2 seed at that point? Arizona wins. Arizona goes 15-5 in the Big 12. I think that you're looking at squarely at a 3 seed, and that's big. That's obviously big. Now, the one thing that I think that you also have to take into account here is, where exactly is Arizona in the grand scheme then about, in all of this around the conference? And we're going to, listen, you've had some teams that have been total failures that I think that, that have been very surprising, I think, for a lot of people. I think a lot of people are stunned at the way that Kansas has basically just collapsed this season. This has been a bad basketball team. Not only has this been a bad basketball team, it's a team that kind of feels like the wheels are falling off, and I think Arizona probably can get that game. But we're going to get ahead to that in a second. But back to BYU, you got Keita inside, and you've obviously got Egor Demin. You've got a couple guys that can drive the ball as well. But Arizona's just got better players across the board. Arizona, you might not have an NBA prospect like Demin, but Arizona's got better players. Arizona's got guys who you watch them and you're like, all right, he's a little bit different. He's a little bit different. He's a little bit different. And that's kind of a, that's a big thing in all of this, is that Arizona's just got better players. Now, BYU, the one thing that they did show in this game is that BYU can spread it out. BYU can hit shots. BYU can get to the basket. Because they can spread it out. The problem, though, is that they just don't have anywhere near the athleticism to be able to counter Arizona, and that's something that is that's an issue. Is that they just don't have anybody that can make that counter, and when they don't have anybody that can make that counter, kind of is what it is. So this is going to be a huge game for Caleb Love. Listen, Arizona's not going to get 6 straight games in the NCAA tournament from Caleb Love. They're just not. But he can get 6 games where he's scoring, where he's getting to the bucket, where he's doing a lot of different things out on the court. And he should be able to do that. I believe that Caleb Love should be able to get 15 to 20 points every single game without having to take 9 3-point shots. I believe he can get downhill. I can believe he can get to the bucket. I believe he can shoot free throws. I mean, he is a great free throw shooter. We know that he's a great free throw shooter, and he has shown that time and time and time again, and he's made clutch free throws. So it's going to be big for him. KJ Lewis is another one. KJ Lewis in this game should be able to do exactly what he wants when he wants. KJ is a monster. We know that. He can't really shoot the ball, but it doesn't really matter because he can lock you up defensively. I would imagine you're going to see him on Demin a lot. We're going to be talking about that here in a sec. I believe we're going to be talking about that here in a second. But Demin is going to be one that I think you're going to see KJ Lewis on. Then after that, I love the starting lineup, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, of Veesaar and Awaka. But Jaden Bradley, another guy. Jaden Bradley has got to, he's got to stay out of foul trouble, and he's not only does he have to stay out of foul trouble, he has got to be able to just kind of show people left and right that, yes, I am, I'm back. The problem that I think a lot of people worry about with him is where exactly can Jaden Bradley make his impact if he doesn't wear down. My only concern with Jaden Bradley is wearing down. I think that's a legitimate concern. I think that's a concern that a lot of people have. You can't have Jaden Bradley wear down. He's got to be able to play it. He's got to be able to continue to push that in that manner. And if he does that, then I think Arizona is going to be in really, really good shape. Now, another aspect then to this is Anthony Del Orso. This feels like an ADO game. When ADO plays well, Arizona is really, really hard to beat because he's got a 3-point shot and he is a much more clever driver than I think a lot of people give him credit for. ADO, when he gets downhill, or even when he's in transition, he can finish around the bucket. He can do some things where you're like, this is a situation with ADO where he's made for games like BYU because he kind of looks like somebody that should play at BYU, And he showed, I think, against Baylor as well. There were multiple times when he was driving down driving to the hoop where you're like, oh, that's about to get blocked, and he had like a clever finish. He had a clever finish around the hoop. He had a clever, finish in a variety of different areas, and that's just kind of where it's at with when it comes to ADO. ADO is Arizona's got a lot to work with. Then I expect Arizona to go to 13-3. If you go to 13-3, then you look at it, you got Iowa State on the road. I believe Arizona's probably going to lose that game, but you should be able to beat you should be able to beat Utah. You should be able to beat ASU, and then you go into that big matchup with Kansas. And if you can beat Kansas, then you're really cooking because Arizona, there's a lot to look at and say, man, Arizona can beat Kansas or whatever the case may be. If that happens, then I think you go into the Big 12 tournament and you're like, okay, we're starting to look at a 2 seed. And what I think you really like about the 2 seed proposition is that you can stay. You're probably going to stay out west at that point. You also avoid Duke. I want nothing to do with Duke. Not only do I want nothing to do with Duke, I will keep them out there, and I I think that Arizona should be fine. But this is a huge game. You got to take care of business first because I do think that Arizona can beat Kansas, but you got to be able to make sure that that one happens. And if that one happens, then obviously Arizona's in really, really good shape. Now, there is a player in this game, though, that is an absolute nuclear bomb for BYU that we do need to discuss. But first, FanDuel, my friends, FanDuel, check it out. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off, that's key, or want to get in on fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action, and if you're looking for a bigger payout, you could combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. That's something pretty cool right there. So again, right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just to visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, FanDuel, also a great place to bet on college basketball games, my friends, but you all know that because you are all very smart people. But again, check it out, FanDuel. You will thank me later. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked on, your team every day, your first listen of the day. All right, Egor Demin. Egor Demin is one of the handful of best prospects in all of college basketball. He's going to be a top 5 to 10 pick. You watch him, it's easy to see why. He's 6'7". He's 6'7". He can get down. He can get downhill. He can shoot the three. He might even be taller than 6'7". He might be 6'9". And if he's 6'9", then you're probably looking at a top 3 to 4 pick. You saw him against Arizona. He was able to do essentially what he wanted out on the court, and he was very good at it. He's a very cerebral passer. The game comes easy to him. Arizona did not do a good job with him. I think in this game, KJ Lewis has got to be on him, and KJ Lewis has got to be on him early because, again, this is a dude that is just built a little bit differently, and these are the kind of games that KJ Lewis was built for. KJ Lewis, when you watch him and you're like, all right, you hear the Reggie Geary comparison, you hear the, and I like that. I put that out there before the season. I thought that was a really good comparison. Every now and then I get one right, and I think from a defensive perspective, his physicality, his his willingness to be able to step foot out there is huge for Arizona. KJ's a monster. KJ is he's a dude that, you're like, defensively, you can just do a lot of different things, and he is like I said, he's just a beast. He's a great player, and he's somebody that you're like, okay, cool. This is what you can do. Now, Egor Demin, though, you got to be aware of him. Now, again, you had some other guys. You had like the Dallin Hall guy that were problems as well, but everything comes off of Egor Demin and Keita up front. I don't really have a ton of concern about him because I think Henri Veesaar and Tobe Awaka are those dudes. And when I say that Henri Veesaar and Tobe Awaka are those guys, I mean that because, Veesaar up front, he's a difference maker. He has got to continue to play more. Tommy Lloyd has to keep him in the starting lineup because when he's in the starting lineup, Arizona is just better. There's really no other way around it. Arizona is just better when he's in the lineup, and he's got to be in the lineup. It's that simple. It's really that simple. It is that easy. He's a guy that you watch him and you're like, that guy's got an NBA game to him. That guy's got NBA potential. He can shoot the three. He can block shots. He can run the court. He can do a lot of different things. And then up front, too, the one dude that makes it a lot easier for him is Tobe Awaka. Tobe Awaka is the dude that he is just, he's below the rim, but he's going to get you a lot of rebounds, going to get you a lot of points. Kind of feel like we're with Tobe Awaka now where you just basically know you're going to get 12 and 11 out of him. I mean, he flirts with a double-double pretty much every single game, and he does that because, again, he works hard. That's a big thing with him. He works hard, and that's something that I think some other guys on the team could work around, but I expect him to have a monster game. I expect both these guys to pretty much destroy BYU up front. And if they destroy BYU up front, then BYU is going to be in terrible shape because, well, they don't have the players on the perimeter, and yes, they do have Demin that, in my opinion, are built to be able to keep up with Arizona. Then you got Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant, I think, is those free throws that Carter Bryant made against Baylor on the road were huge. He wanted those free throws. Listen, he's a young kid, you can tell that, but he is just getting better and better and better and better, and the game is coming easy to him. Not only is the game coming easy to him, he's the kind of dude where you're like, all right, um, you're going to be really, really good in no time flat. He is, I think, if you're Arizona, you're hoping that he can get into the NBA, or you're hoping that he puts the NBA off for a year because you really, really like what you could potentially get from him. Moving forward, I think that's something that Arizona fans, I think, would all very, very much like to see. Now, when it comes to some of these other guys on this team, then we got to talk about Trey Townsend. I think with Trey Townsend, the big thing with Trey Townsend is you just want him to try hard. If he tries hard, then that's something that, from an Arizona perspective, I think that you can deal with. There's way too many games, and we've seen this before, where he just doesn't try hard. And I think that's something that you can't really have. You can't really have something where a guy is just not trying hard. And that's been kind of an issue for him pretty much the entire season. He doesn't rebound as well either. So that's also a problem. He's got to be able to be a little bit better. I think Tommy Lloyd has noticed this, though. I think that he has shown that, listen, I think we're kind of at the point now where you just kind of know what he is, but you've got to be able to play better. You got to be able to play better basketball than he's shown, and I just don't think that he's going to be able to show that. So that is what it is. So Arizona, though, this is still going to come back to Caleb Love. Caleb Love has to play well. If Caleb Love plays well, then Arizona is just a real problem. Arizona is a real problem across the board. Arizona is a team where you're like, okay, yeah, this is an issue for teams across the board. That's where Arizona is, but it has got to be, and it has got to start with Caleb Love. Caleb Love has to be that dude. He has got to be the guy that you're just watch him and you're like, all right, he's the best player out in the court. That's what Arizona needs him for. Arizona needs him to be the best player on the court, and I don't believe that there's any reason why he can't. Now, we're going to get a prediction and something else to keep in mind here in this game as Arizona looks to move to 13-3 in Big 12 play. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked on, your team every day. I believe that Arizona is going to win this game fairly easily. I believe Arizona is going to win this game by 10 to 14 points, something like that. And I believe that Arizona comes out of here feeling really, really good about itself. And then you've obviously got Utah. Arizona should be able to beat Utah. You're going to have ASU a little bit later on in the season, but things are really starting to I think, fall in line for Arizona. And a big reason why, too, is that everybody's roles are being figured out. Listen, Jaden Bradley is going to play 35 to 40 minutes per game every single game. That's just what he's going to do. Caleb Love, whether you like him or not, he's going to be playing 30 minutes plus per game. KJ Lewis, much the same, even though he's coming off the bench. ADO is very much about, you know it when you see it type. Is this a ADO game? Is this not an ADO game? And I think that's kind of the question that I think a lot of people, basically have every single game about ADO, but you know it pretty quickly. And he's part of that rotation, so it makes sense. Then up front, Carter Bryant, he's a big, he's starting to play 25, 28 minutes, and they need him to. He's a problem on the glass. Not only is he a problem on the glass, he can shoot the three. He's going to do some dumb things. He's a hacker for sure. He's going to commit some dumb fouls. I get it. But he's also a very underrated passer. If you're Arizona, I think you just really want to get a second year out of him. You get a second year out of him, then I think you're talking about an All-American, somebody that's just a real issue for any team that's going against him. Then up front, you've got, like I said, Henri Veesaar. and Tobe Awaka, they both have to play 30 minutes per game, 28 to 32 minutes per. They got to stay out of foul trouble, obviously. But if they stay out of foul trouble, you got that. And then Trey Townsend, again, Trey Townsend, I think, is in that 12 to 14 minute per game role. I don't want to turn this into something where we're always beating up on Trey, but the problem is that, and I put some of this on Tommy, and everybody knows I hope Tommy's here for 500 years. But the problem, though, that Trey has is that he's also being asked to play way more than he should be. When you got a player that's just probably not Power 5 caliber, you can't play him 28 to 30 minutes. And the biggest problem with him is that he can't rebound the basketball. He stands there and, against Houston, he would have position and guy would just go right over him and get him or push him out of the way and get it. And he would just kind of, that's just pretty much how that would how all of that would play out. He is also a guy that is not an effort guy. Now there are some times, but overall there's been a lot of times this season where he just hasn't tried. Again, not breaking any news, just telling you the way it is. And he doesn't really provide anything offensively. He can't really finish around the hoop. He's not a good 3-point shooter. There's just really nothing that he does well. And so the big problem, though, is where he really hurts you is on the rebounding front. That's why you've got to, in my opinion, you've got to have Carter Bryant in the game when Trey Townsend is playing like Trey Townsend, because Carter, at least from that 3 position, can get rebounds. He can help out. He can do, he can do things that, that Trey just can't. But I look for a big game from Veesaar and Awaka in this. I think they're two guys that, and I like Keita a lot, but I think these are two guys that you just don't really have a ton of, there's just not a ton of leeway for him, I guess, to put it mildly. And I look for Veesaar and Awaka to both flirt with a double-double. I think they're going to be kind of in that range, and I think Arizona's going to feel pretty good about itself after the game. You've also got, and I don't think it was really a coincidence as well that, in this game, you've also got, they played a lot better. And I don't know how to put this, but they played a lot better. And he is a guy that, you think you can just expect a lot out of him. But overall, this has been a team that has fit in well in the Big 12, and it's fit in well. And he has been and a big part of it, though, is the physicality that they brought. This has been a physical team. This has been a team that has shown a lot. And, in years past, I don't know that they were actually prepared to really be able to do that. As a matter of fact, I don't think they were. I don't think they were able to do that. He, so we'll see. But, and especially on the perimeter, KJ Lewis, you've got Jaden Bradley, you got Caleb Love. He was. This is just a team that I think is ready to rock and roll in the Big 12, and it's fun to watch them too. It's fun to watch this team really kind of come together and see what they can do. And they're also, you can tell too, they also like playing with each other. That's a big thing in college basketball. We've seen teams like last year's team. It didn't really look per se like they liked playing together. You could see that Boswell was a major annoyance for, a lot of different players on the team. There were questions about guys across the board. This year's team looks like they enjoy playing together. And again, it's a different type of team. I get all that, but at the same time, it's also a team that is, like I said, it's a good basketball team. And Tommy Lloyd, I think he's not going to win Conference Coach of the Year, but I think he should win Conference Coach of the Year. And he's not going to win the National Coach of the Year, but I think he should probably be in contention for that as well. It's just, like I said, it's just the way this team's come together, and it's been the exact opposite. In the past, Arizona has kind of peaked in November, December, and then by this time, you're in that Pac-12 swoon where you're just kind of going down a hill from there, and everybody kind of knows that you don't really feel great about how you're playing going into the tournament. You saw that last year with the Pac-12. You're seeing that again, obviously, this year with the in that same way. So it's going to be interesting to see. But either way, I expect a big Arizona victory against BYU. We're going to be back here, obviously, on the post game, talking about hopefully that victory and what it means. Is Arizona squarely in the 3 seed line? Because right now they're squarely in that. They appear to be in there, but some of them have them under the high 4, low 3. I think if you beat BYU, I think that becomes solidified, and at that point, then you're dealing, you're really dealing with a lot of good stuff. But on that note, though, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm going Arizona 88, BYU 74, and I think we're going to be talking about a huge post-game win and Tommy Lloyd's team moving to 13-3 in the Big 12. But again, have a great rest of your day. You've been listening to Locked On Wildcats. Thanks for making it your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day.